As remarkable as it sounds, the Giants and the Kansas City Chiefs are both 0-2 as they prepare for Sunday night's matchup at MetLife Stadium. How do you think this game will go? Let's talk about it next on the Big Blue Breakdown live. Hi again, everybody. Paul Dottino back with you on the Big Blue Breakdown Live. So glad you could join us at our regularly scheduled time, Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, as we talk all things New York Giants. Now, state of the team, well, we know that. They are 0-2. Horrible, heartbreaking loss to the Dallas Cowboys the other day, and there's no other way to describe it other than a gut punch. But here's the thing. They still have a game to play Sunday against a Kansas City Chiefs team that is also 0-2 and probably feeling pretty miserable about themselves. In fact, since Patrick Mahomes took over as their starting quarterback, this is the first time that they have started a season 0-2. They have made 10 straight playoff appearances since they were last 0-2 in the 2014 season. That 10-year streak is the longest active NFL postseason streak in the league. Patrick Mahomes, who was the starting quarterback in the Super Bowl this past February and lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. If you include postseason, he is on the first 3-game losing streak of his career. Now, you folks know I don't like wins and losses for quarterbacks. I don't put much stock in that stat, but there are those people who seem to enjoy wins and losses in terms of quarterback stats. So for them, I give you that number. Again, personally, I could care less. Mahomes had never gone 3 losses in a row in 134 career starts until this past 3 games that they have lost spanning back to the Super Bowl. So anyway, that gives you a little idea of what's going on there with the Chiefs. Giants are 0-2 for the 10th time in the last 13 seasons. That is the most in the league since 2013. I could go over a whole bunch of more stats for you, but I will give you one other one that is very relevant. The Chiefs have only been in the lead during the first 2 weeks of the season for a combined 2 minutes and 44 seconds. Only the Carolina Panthers, who have not led a game, period, during the first 2 weeks, have had fewer minutes in the lead in the NFL. That's it. Chiefs are 31st. Does anybody want to talk about getting off to a fast start? Because you better do it this week. All right. A couple things to go over. And I want to get to your comments over here in the chat room. If you want to make an audio call or a video call, there you go. There's the link right below me. Certainly would be very glad to talk to anybody who wants to chat it up. Couple of injury situations for the Giants. Number 1, Andrew Thomas did not take all of the snaps today at practice, but Brian Daboll said before practice that he would take most of the snaps. So he is trending in the right direction to start against Kansas City, coming off of his foot rehab. The other item on the injury list, and there are several players on the Giants injury list today who did not take all of the snaps, but I'm only going to mention the 3 most serious because these guys did not practice today. Flanagan Foles, special teams linebacker with a calf, did not work. Chauncey Golston with a sprained ankle, he did not work today. Now, that's a guy you certainly want in there because he does add reps to the defensive line. And, of course, Muasau Darius Muasau, the linebacker, who was in the concussion protocol and also apparently sustained an eye injury during the game in Dallas. And I think Muasau is probably going to be out for a while. So that's where the Giants stand with their injuries, or at least the most significant ones that we can talk about after today's practice session. There are a number of things that I can tell you about that were said today by the players and by the coach. But before I go into that, it's important to mention some of the Chiefs' significant injuries. Wide receiver Xavier Worthy, the first-round pick from last year, has a separated shoulder, and the people in Kansas City seem to believe that it is highly unlikely that he will play against the Giants. Josh Simmons, their rookie first-round pick left tackle, was ill today. Again, they're not saying exactly how much or what it was, but that was an interesting development with him not being available. And right defensive end Mike Dana had a quad injury that forced him out of practice today. He was unable to work. So those are the three most significant injuries suffered by the Kansas City Chiefs. You already know that wide receiver Rashee Rice was suspended during the offseason. He is unavailable as well. And this is one of the reasons why the Kansas City Chiefs have had trouble scoring points. They lost to the Chargers 27-21 and to the Eagles 20-17. So that's 38 points in 2 games. They have not gotten their offense going at all. It has been a problem. Juju Smith-Schuster and Hollywood Brown are their 2 starting wide receivers, with Worthy being the other and unavailable now, it looks like, because of the shoulder. So that's a bit of an issue. Travis Kelce is showing a lot of signs of age. He had a big drop, a tip last week that wound up getting intercepted. So that didn't help the situation for them. And Isaiah Pacheco has not been the same since coming off his significant injury. Coming out of Rutgers, he was a promising back, lit the world on fire with the Chiefs, did a great job getting them to the Super Bowl, etc. Then he got hurt. Hasn't been the same. And it's quite clear. I mean, for example, I can give you the numbers. Pacheco, 15 carries, 47 yards, 3.1 per attempt, and only a 10-yard long. Pacheco, not the same player. Kareem Hunt, again, not the same player that he was many years ago. 13 carries, 47 yards, 3.6 average, only 11 yards long. Believe it or not, Patrick Mahomes is their leading rusher. 123 yards on 13 tries, 2 touchdowns, and a long of 22. Mahomes' legs has actually been the most dangerous weapons on the Chiefs' offense to this point. So they are a shell of themselves. There is no question about that. Steve Spagnuolo's done a marvelous job with a defense that, has been stripped over the last couple of years of some free agents and some guys getting old. But nonetheless, they've been very competitive in these first 2 games. And so, Spags is going to have something dialed up for the Giants. He has been very blitz happy this year. Big time blitz happy. And after what Russell Wilson just did the other day in Dallas with his 450 yards, positively, Spags is going to send the dogs after Wilson. So that's just a quick check in terms of some of the status or the state of the 2 teams as of today's practice here in the middle of the week. Now, let me get over to your chats. And again, please dial me up with an audio or video call if you can. I promise you we'll be here for at least an hour. Maybe we'll go 90 minutes if you guys feel compelled to keep the program going. Big Blue says good evening, and I say good evening back to you, Big Blue. Mark B says, hey, Paulie, I'm here for a good time. Let's go. Look, it's always a good time when you're talking NFL football. In our particular case, we talk Giants football, but the NFL is the greatest league in the universe. pro football is the greatest game in the universe. It's always cool. Aiden Fink says, the biggest headline of the week. Will Paul Dottino meet his favorite pop star, Taylor Swift? No. Nope. No interest in doing so, and I promise you she is not interested in the least in meeting me either. Hey, Big Blue is going to make a video call. How about that? Big Blue, this is your first video call since you've been listening to the program. Welcome. Oh, I think you are on mute. Let me hold on. I think I can unmute you.
How's that?
How about that? I got you.
All right. You know what? No, I was on there last year. I went to twice during the summer. Oh.
I got you. I can hear you. Go ahead.
You can hear me good?
I got you now.
Let me do from your afternoon show.
Okay.
Giving you the... Anyway, so Paul, offense, 1 for 7 in the green zone. Yeah, 1 for 7 in the green zone. Not good.
Okay. I'm not going to disagree with you. Look, Big Blue, you and I both know the Giants should have had a commanding lead at halftime. This game never should have been close in the fourth quarter, and absolutely never should have come down to a field goal. I don't care how long it was. It never should have come down to that. The Giants proved that they can do enough to be competitive and to be in a game and to be in position to win a game. But what didn't they do? They didn't finish off enough drives and settle for too many field goals, and they committed far too many penalties. There is no question about any of that. And there were a few plays there where they really screwed up, not making the proper tackles because they let guys through their hands and their arms. So they did enough stuff to screw themselves over. But they also absolutely proved that they could do enough of things to put themselves in position to win. Oh, I think we're having a problem here. Big Blue, you muted yourself again. You got to open up your mic.
How's that?
I got you now.
All right. So the other thing is the defense has been offensive. The penalties, the prevent. You know what? This defense is reminding me of the Rod Russ years.
The read and react. I remember it well.
So let me just on the other thing, what I wanted to say is the penalties are a killer, and I really hope we don't see Bill Vinovich is officiating crew anytime this year. They've been horrible.
Yeah, I understand. You know,
and then,
here's the problem with that, though. And Big Blue, I want to tell you, as you know, anytime somebody cites the officials, immediately you get called an apologist, a homer, making excuses, blah, 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 blah. Look, here's what I will say. The Giants got penalized 14 times, and that there was still a couple of offset penalties and a couple that weren't taken. So that gives you an idea of how flag happy they were. And by the way, let me make something clear. The Cowboys had 12 penalties for over 100 yards marked against them too.
Yep.
Now, what does that tell you about the propensity for the Zebras to throw a flag in that game?
I hear you.
And quite frankly, again, we don't really want to go there, but I suspect if you were in the NFL offices on Monday and you reviewed each one of those flags, I think you will see that it wasn't exactly even. I do believe that, you know, the two roughing the passer calls against the Giants, which were very important, were really, really borderline. In fact, I'm not even sure that one of them was a flat-out penalty, but it is what it is.
It is, Paul. All right. Thank you, Paul. I'll look forward to the rest of the show.
All right, Big Blue. Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Paul.
you calling in.
Likewise.
Be good. We always like hearing from our viewers and our listeners. And again, love the fact that he was willing to come in and make a video call. That's cool. Why not put a face to your voice and chat with me? Talk to me. I want to talk to people. All right. What do we have here? JVA Tex Bory. How's it going, brother? I really believe that if the offense can hold up against Kansas City's defense, we can win. Let me just say something to you now. And you guys know that on Friday, I tape on early Friday morning the 3 key matchups for the game. And I will tell you now, and this is no secret to anybody who knows anything about these two teams, a very, very important matchup in this game, because Steve Spagnuolo has been blitz happy this season, and he's always been very aggressive. But let me give you the number here, because I actually have it. Kansas City's defense has been blitzing on 49%. 49% of pass plays this year, which is second in the National Football League to the Denver Broncos, who were over 51%. So Spags is not pulling any punches. He is throwing all of his cards on the table, and he's coming after you. Now, having said that, the Kansas City Chiefs have only collected 4 sacks. So he's been coming hot and heavy with a bunch of players, sending guys left and right. But again, they're not necessarily getting home. Now, of course, we've talked about this many times on all of the shows that I've been on. Pressures are also very important. But here's what I want to mention to you. The Giants' offensive line was functional last week against the Dallas Cowboys. Functional enough that Russell Wilson was able to throw the ball more than 40 times for 450 yards and basically lead an explosive offensive attack. And they gave him enough time to complete 8 passes. I believe it was 6 passes of more than 20 yards in the air, which means you have to have time to set up and throw. So that's all good. But here's the thing. If Spagnuolo's blitz packages, when he's sending guys from all directions and sending different guys on each play, if he can confuse the Giants' protection scheme, Russell Wilson is going to be running for his life like he was in week 1 against the Washington Commanders. It is really that simple. I'm just going to lay it out for you right now. If the offensive line cannot handle Spags' complex blitzing scheme, it's going to be a very, very long night for the Giants. It's that simple. Because I can't guarantee you that the Chiefs aren't going to break out, even though they've had troubles offensively in the first 2 games. I can't guarantee you that the Giants defense will hold them to 20 points. You have to believe at some point, Mahomes, as a magician as he is going to be able to do more offensively than what he has shown in the first 2 games. Which means the Giants offense is going to have to do something similar to what they did in Dallas to outscore Kansas City and bring home a victory. Of course, they're already home, so they don't have to bring it home very far. They just got to walk it across the parking lot to the Quest Diagnostic Center. But my point is, if Wilson is under constant duress like he was against Washington, well, how'd that game go for the Giants offensively? You guys saw the game. Everybody around the league and the nation said, same old Giants offense. They can't move the ball. They can't score. They can't do anything right. Same old Giants offense that's been horrible for the last couple of years. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Well, what happened in week 2? Russell Wilson showed everybody, what those of us who have been at practice for the last 6 months have already known. He could still make all the throws. And he still has some mobility left in his legs. Not as fast as he used to be. Okay? Nobody has ever said he's the same guy. But he can still make all the throws. He's as smart as any quarterback in the league. And he still has enough mobility in his legs to compete. That is, unless he is under constant firehouse pressure, which is what Spags is going to try to do to him. So what's the biggest key for the Giants in this game? There's no doubt about it. It's the offensive line, specifically John Michael Schmitz, who calls all the signals at center for the offensive line, and of course, whatever adjustments that Russell Wilson feels he has to make pre-snap, because the Chiefs are going to show an awful lot, and they're going to try to play mind games with him. They're going to try to confuse him. That's what Spags will do. Show him different looks, mug different blitzers, and do whatever he can to throw the Giants off. He is going to try to deceive them throughout the course of the evening so that he can get the pressure on Wilson and short circuit any hope that the Giants have in the game. So it is a huge Herculean task for John Michael Schmitz and Russell Wilson to make the right line calls and to also make the correct pre-snap reads. And then, of course, as you all know, sometimes the great defensive coordinators like Spags, they'll show you a pre-snap read disguising something, and then it turns out to be something different during the play. But Wilson, being in the league for 14 years, he's already seen it all. So I'm not so much concerned with Wilson getting confused. I don't think that's going to happen. Russell Wilson is equipped to do battle against the great Steve Spagnuolo. He's equipped to do that. But is John Michael Schmitz and the rest of that offensive line, are they equipped? Are they prepared to do what they have to do? To pick up the blitzes, to pick up all of the confusion that Spags is going to throw at them, to give Wilson a chance. That's the key to this game. That's it, right there. That's it. If they can handle that, they got a real chance to make the Chiefs 0-3. Aiden Fink says, why didn't we see Jalen Hyatt again? Aiden, Hyatt is a healthy scratch for 2 weeks in a row. I don't know why. He doesn't know why. As Coach Daboll likes to say, they just prepare the game plan for the individual matchups, and then they make the decisions that are best for the team. I think I understood in the first game, they may have thought that Wilson would be under a lot of duress. I mean, after all, they only threw one pass of longer than 20 yards against Washington. Well, if you're going to have Jalen Hyatt in the lineup, most of his routes are going to be long. That's what he does. He's a speedster. He stretches the field. So if they added in their game plan against the Commanders that they were not going to attempt too many deep throws, I suppose I could justify and understand why Hyatt might have been scratched in week 1. I'm more surprised that he was scratched against Dallas. Not sure about that one, to be honest with you. But then again, they did complete a slew of deep throws, and Neighbors and Robinson took care of that business rather well. Darius Slayton, too. But, yeah, I understand the question, and it's very disappointing because the Giants would be that much better off if Jalen Hyatt could be a respected member of that receiving corps who could throw some scare into opposing defenses. Mark B says, if the defense stays in Patrick's face for 4 quarters and keeps him in stress mode like the Eagles did in the Super Bowl, good things can happen for the Giants. Well, let me give you some numbers here, specifically about this topic, Mark B. The Giants, let's see here. I got a couple of numbers I want to give you. I just want to make sure I got this stuff here correctly because I got all my notes. I did all my study on Kansas City yesterday. Giants blitz so far is 9th in the NFL at just over 35% of the time. Okay? To this point, the Giants have 6 sacks. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if it's as much important at them getting sacks or if it's more important that they get the pressures. Because at this point, if you get pressures and are able to contain Mahomes from running for yardage, which he's now doing this year, he is finding out that he doesn't have all of the tools in his offensive toolbox this year. You know, they don't have the weaponry they've had in the past. So he's taken it upon himself to run for 123 yards in 2 games. So for me, I think they'll get a lot of pressure on Mahomes. I think they can do that. Now, again, sacks would be great. My key for them is if they can get pressure on Mahomes, make sure he doesn't get away. Because, as Dexter Lawrence said earlier today, he is sneaky athletic. That's a big problem here. See, if you can pressure Mahomes enough to make him force a throw instead of taking it down and running past you, that will work just fine. Because maybe the Giants will be able to get a couple of interceptions. And certainly they should be able to, hopefully, do what they need to do in the secondary to knock some passes down. The point is, yeah, I'll give you this. You said keep them in stress mode. Yeah, actually, I think I should agree with your statement, Mark B. Because I don't think it necessarily has to be sacks as much as it has to be pressure Mahomes and make sure he doesn't run for the first down. Pressure him enough to where he feels he's got to throw it. That would be the key on defense for me. Aiden Fink says, Paul, I couldn't find this online. Do you know when the last time the Giants had 2 wide receivers go over 100 prior to Sunday? I have a great number for you. It's not exactly the number you want, Aiden. Wan'Dale Robinson and Malik Neighbors were the second Giants teammates in history to put up over 140 yards receiving apiece and each score a receiving touchdown. The only other Giants duo to do that, Victor Cruz and Hakeem Nicks, back in 2012. Yep, 2012. Let me see. Hold on a second. Let me just reach back here. Hold on a second, Aiden. You want that answer? You want that answer? I've got something that I can look up in my files here. Hold on just a second here. Bear with me as I scoot to the back of the screen. Okay, Aiden, there you go. Now let me see if I can find it in all of this paperwork that I keep year after year after year after year. Let me see if I can find this. Oh my goodness. Let's see here. 2 100-yard receivers. Okay, I got it. 2019, Aiden. 2019, Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard each had over 100 yards receiving at Tampa Bay. And I believe you will recall that game very well because it was quite an exciting game for the New York Giants. So, Aiden, there's your answer. See, I'll tell you, if I don't know it, I don't know it. But I'll do my best to make sure that I can find it for you. That's what we do here on the Big Blue Breakdown. Mark B says, Aiden took my question. Well, good news is I gave you both the answer. Matt Seepersad, good evening, Paul and Giants Nation. Let's get fired up for the home opener. That'd be cool. Mark B says, love to see Hyatt get some burn. Could stretch the field with Russell Wilson, for sure. Scott Young wants to know what's going on with Jalen Hyatt. Scott, it is a mystery. It really is. It is a mystery. Two of the biggest mysteries of my Giants career. What is going on with Jalen Hyatt? And what in the world happened with Kenny Golladay? I still don't understand that, except for the fact that maybe the injuries really took their toll on him and the coaching staff just didn't have any faith in him because he wasn't physically the same guy. That's the only explanation I have for Golladay. For Hyatt, I'm still very puzzled by this one. You want to know why he doesn't see the field? Yeah, I know. Bakester 26 says Hyatt can help this offense. Well, they scored 37 on Sunday. I don't know that the offense needed a whole lot of help in that particular game. Scott Young says, will Marcus Bowe get the start at left tackle on Sunday? I sure hope they don't put James Hudson back out there. I felt Marcus played excellent. Marcus Bowe did a nice job, especially when you consider that it was his NFL debut as a tackle. He had played eligible tight end previously, as you probably know, against the Washington Commanders. Now, I do want to just mention something to you about James Hudson while the topic has come up. Brian Daboll said one of the penalties in the first drive on Hudson, the false start, was not on Hudson. It was a missed identification by the officials. He did not tell us who it was who should have been called for the penalty, but it was a missed ID. It was not Hudson, so he was actually only charged with 3 penalties on the opening drive. Daboll also said that he understands that Hudson plays with a fiery edge. He likes that, but he also does want him to be smarter and make sure that he reins it in and doesn't commit those penalties. Did say he still has confidence in him and he hasn't lost faith in him. Hudson himself said he wears the game on his sleeve. In talking to him this morning, he said he believes he's a smart player and that he won't let it happen again. He said Daboll did chat with him and said, don't let the edge go too far. He wants him to be edgy. He wants him to be fiery, but don't go too far. And Hudson also said he was very much supported by his teammates, despite the mistakes that he made in the game. He said when he came out and they showed him on TV in a verbal situation that obviously looked like he was having an argument with people, he said that's not what was happening. He said, I was trying to tell everybody that I understood the mistakes that I made. I was aware of it, and I wouldn't do it again if I got back in the game. He said the coaches told him to be ready. They didn't know how well Marcus Bowe was going to play, and so they told Hudson, be ready, you may have to go back in. As it turned out, Bowe played well and stayed throughout the course of the day. Hudson said, I don't blame them, and I respect them for that decision. The rookie played well, and I totally understand why they left him in there. But Hudson did say that, again, he does hope he gets another opportunity, and he believes that after this issue and this conversation with Coach Daboll and the teammates, that you will not see him in a similar situation as you did during the first drive against the Cowboys. Be that as it may, Andrew Thomas is ramping up. And again, according to Daboll, he was to take most of the snaps at practice today. Now, you have to take all of the snaps to be listed in full in terms of the practice report, or to not be listed at all. If you even miss one snap, you have to be listed as limited. So we don't know how many snaps Thomas took because the Giants listed him as limited. But Daboll said earlier in the day that Thomas would take most of the snaps, and he was encouraged by Andrew Thomas's status. And so I think the arrow is looking really good for Sunday, which means Hudson doesn't have to worry about his place on the depth chart or in the lineup, because Andrew Thomas may just wind up being the guy against the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, thank you so much for the question, Scott, because it allowed me to give you that sidebar story. Isaac Moore says, hey, Paul, do you think Shane Bowen will adjust to his talent on the field, or are we going to keep seeing this soft zone? Well, you know what's interesting? We saw the Giants blitz, and again, they're ninth in the NFL with a just over 35% blitz percentage, which is fairly aggressive. I mean, you're in the top third of the league. That's interesting. And the Giants played a lot more man and mixture coverages against the Cowboys than they did against Washington. Now, I would think against the Chiefs, there's probably a better chance that you will play more man, because I don't know that the Chiefs' offensive line can hold up, and you're going to want to pressure Mahomes, and that means what you want to do is throw off their timing routes so you can play more man and be more physical with those guys. It is not a great wide receiver core. Again, it's Juju Smith-Schuster. It's Hollywood Brown. Those are the top two guys. They got Tyquan Thornton also on the team, and Jason Brownlee. I would think you want to get the receivers off their routes, knowing that you're going to get some early pressure on Mahomes. And if there's enough pressure early after the snap and you're screwing up their routes, where's he going to go with the ball? He's going to have to hold it longer, which could mean a sack, or he's going to have to force a throw and perhaps make a mistake. So I don't know if that necessarily answers your question, Isaac, but I do think the Giants are setting themselves up this week for some more man coverages and hopefully making more use of their pressure package up front. So I don't think you'll see a soft zone against Kansas City, but that is strictly an opinion on my behalf. Mark B says, I see a, dare I say, improved offensive line. Russ was playing extremely well. Russell Wilson said Spags is one of the best coaches in the league. I agree. Well, there's no doubt. Look, if the NFL, not the NFL, if the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, ever decides that they're going to have a special section for coordinators, Steve Spagnuolo needs to be in there. I'm not going to pull any punches. I know Spags well. We still communicate, even though he's in Kansas City. I still do have interaction with him. And I think the world of the man. And I would absolutely support any possibility that he would make it to the Hall of Fame should they have a coordinators group, which to this point they've never done. It's only been head coaches and contributors. They've never put a coordinator in. Matt Seepersad says, everyone is asking about Jalen Hyatt, but I'll ask this. What does he do that Neighbors doesn't? running all those level routes. He's got no fit at this time with Slayton, Robinson, Neighbors, Johnson, Tracy. Well, Matt, you bring up an interesting point. What I had said throughout the course of the offseason, when we talked about Hyatt, what I had told people, either on this show or the Big Blue Kickoff Live show, as you know, during the day on Giants.com, I'm one of the rotating hosts on Big Blue Kickoff Live. I do a lot more shows in the offseason than I do during the season. But I have said over and over and over again, what the Giants want is to have 4 targets available in an obvious passing situation, and I'm not including the running back in this, but 4 targets that the other team has to respect. My hope was that Hyatt could develop into that target so that you have Neighbors, Robinson, Slayton, and Jalen Hyatt. And you could go with 2 sets of double wides when you wanted to use a 4 wide receiver set. Now, what I told people during the offseason, and maybe you're newer to the program or maybe you don't watch Big Blue Kickoff Live, but what I have constantly said to people is that if Hyatt doesn't progress to the point where he's going to be that guy, the Giants will use Theo Johnson, in all likelihood, as that 4th threat in that type of package. So you'll have Neighbors, Robinson, Slayton, and Theo Johnson as your 4 main weapons if you wanted to go in a 2x2 set where you could stand up Theo Johnson and use him as a big slot and go with a 1x3, a 3x1, a 2x2. You could even go with a stack or a bunch formation. The point is, if you wanted to have 4 targets outside wide in whatever configuration you can imagine, Theo Johnson, because of his athleticism and receiving skills, it was apparent to me that if Hyatt didn't meet their expectations, Theo Johnson would wind up filling that role. So, Matt, in answer to your question, it's not necessary for Hyatt to be there because they can fill the role with Theo Johnson if they're going to go with 4 wides, guys outside on the boundary. Or again, Theo Johnson would line up in the slot. Robinson would line up in the slot. But you know what I'm saying. 4 guys out wide. That's a logical game plan, X's and O's type of reason why you would not activate Hyatt, because you think you've got enough weaponry by using Theo Johnson in that role. So I appreciate your question because it allowed me to revisit that, something that I've talked about for months. But my only debate with that policy right now is that Hyatt hasn't played the first 2 games, so he had a great offseason. Is it time to say, okay, he's not that guy, we need to make the adjustment and go to Theo Johnson? I would have thought after the spectacular offseason that Jalen Hyatt had, and he really did, and Russell Wilson, since the moment he got here, absolutely loves throwing the ball to Jalen Hyatt. I would have thought he would have gotten more of a chance at this point to be that guy. In the first 2 weeks, it's apparent they don't think he's that guy. So, again, I spelled out the alternative to not using him months ago. And that's what it looks like they have done. Scott Young says, I'm scared of Spagnuolo coming in with his defense against this Giants offense. This could be a very, very ugly night for us, but I hope not. You're right, Scott. If Spags' blitzes are not picked up, Wilson will suffocate. He will be on roller skates all night, and it's going to be a very difficult evening of Giants football. It's really very simple. I'm sorry, but it's that easy. It's that easy. If Spags is able to pull that off, there's going to be a lot of upset fans in that stadium on Sunday night. That, to me, is the biggest hurdle the Giants have to climb if they're going to pull off this upset. Now, I should remind you, again, it doesn't have to be this guy, because Spags will use multiple blitzes. Everybody and anybody coming from all different directions. But we all know who Chris Jones is. To this point, Chris Jones has, I believe it's 1 sack. No, Chris Jones has 1 quarterback hit, 4 tackles, including 2 for losses over the first 2 games. He has been, for him, very, very quiet. However, over the course of his career, he's been one of the best at his position. Now, under normal circumstances, if the Chiefs were not a blitz-happy team, I would say to you the matchup between Chris Jones and center John Michael Schmitz, and also getting help from right guard Greg Van Roten. Because remember, Chris Jones, they will use him usually as the left defensive tackle, but over the course of time, they have often moved him around up and down the line. If Spags was not relying so heavily on the blitz this year, I would simply tell you it's up to JMS and Van Roten to make sure that Chris Jones doesn't wreck the game. That'd be pretty easy. Well, easy to decipher, not necessarily easy to physically do. Easier said than done, I suppose, is the appropriate phrase to use. But here's the thing. Because of what Spags is doing this year and sending so much pressure, blitzing so often, well, Chris Jones does not have to be impactful in the game. He can just command some attention. And it could be any one of a number of players, including Karlaftis, for that matter. Or Tranquil, the linebacker, because he's going to send corners and safeties and linebackers. So Chris Jones could come out of this game like he has the first 2 weeks with 0 sacks. And it's still possible for the Chiefs presser package to silence, suffocate, and squash the Giants. It's that simple. I wish it was easy enough to say stop Chris Jones, but it's not. So you're right, Scott. Steve Spagnuolo, that's the matchup. Even more than a player. It's how can you prevent Spags from causing havoc? Matt Seepersad says pass defense is performing better, ranking 6th in the league, allowing 194.7 yards per game. I mean, let's see what we have here. I don't know where that's coming from. Giants defense is allowing 277 yards per game through the air. Matt, I don't know where that's coming from. Are you perhaps quoting the Chiefs, who have given up 199 yards passing per game? And the reason that is, by the way, How about this for an opponent to face after having so much success on the deep ball against Dallas? How about this? The Kansas City Chiefs defense on passes of longer than 20 yards, opposing quarterbacks are 1 for 7. 28 yards, a completion, and no touchdowns. They have done a great job, obviously, in preventing the deep ball. The Giants just showed last week that they can be very dangerous with the deep ball. So let's see how that works out. Matt, I think that's where you were going with that. I think you were going with Kansas City's number. Matt C. Prasad says defense ranks 32nd in total defense, allowing 455 yards per game. Again, see, stats don't mean diddly squat right now, to be honest with you. I know we're quoting some of them here, but in all honesty, it's about game flow, especially the first couple of weeks of the season, as guys are trying to find their way through sloppy September. The coaches and the players alike are both trying to find their way. So, it really doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. But yes, that is accurate. 450 yards per game the Giants defense is allowing. That is correct. But again, it really doesn't mean anything. It's a hill of beans. Big Blue says, we could not stop Daniels running. I hope we can at least contain Mahomes. Tudo! How are you, my man? Again, showing great respect for the program, and we appreciate that. Diehard Giants fans in America. Greetings for our entire club currently in Edinburgh, Scotland. How about that? Today, Tudo, the temperature was unseasonably cool, 67 degrees at the Giants practice field. They were outside today. Occasional little bit of a drizzle during the course of the morning and the afternoon. It was overcast and cloudy and 67 degrees. It felt like, late October, to be honest. The next 2 days in New Jersey, it's going to be in the 80s. We're going back to summer weather again. So hope you're doing well over there, and you guys have another successful trip. And as always, and we type this out every time, and we have to because we do appreciate it. Thank you, Tudo, being another super user again, doing a super chat, as he always does. He is as consistent as you can possibly be. Matt says, Matt Seepersad, again, we have 2 to 3 man corners, and we have run man coverage 29% of the time over the first 2 games. We ran some sort of zone 51% of the time and blended coverage the remainder of the time, more man coverage. I think you're going to see more man coverage against Kansas City. I've already said that, Matt. I expect that you would. Mojo Mystic, waiting for a monster Scatterboo breakout game. The run game in general needs to gain more yardage. There's no question about that. Oh, yeah. That's absolutely true. If you've listened to any of my programs, I have screamed from the high heavens. The Giants must establish a running game. They must be more balanced, and that will allow Russell Wilson to use his bread and butter, the play-action pass. Could not agree with you more, Mojo. Now, Dallas's pass defense was so porous last week that the Giants really didn't run the ball very much because they saw the matchup and they saw that they could just take as much yardage as they wanted by throwing the ball downfield. And so guess what? That's what they did. They gobbled up yardage like my daughter gobbles up popcorn at the movie theater. That's just the way it was. They didn't have to rely much on the run. Isaac Moore says, Scatterboo is exciting to say the least, no doubt. Mojo Mystic, I love seeing the clip of the bench getting excited for Scat and for him pumping up Russell Wilson, no doubt. A lot of people here cross-talking, saying they're so happy to get Tudo on our chat. Always, always, always. Mark B says, come on, guys, hit the like and sub button, the subscribe button. Sure, absolutely. Look, whether or not you do or you don't, I'm here for you guys. You know, Giants fans, I love talking to you. This is what I do. I mean, I've been doing it for 43 years. This is what I do. So, you know, whether or not you hit like or subscribe, as long as you're here for the show on Wednesday and you participate, most importantly, please participate, because the interaction is the best part of the program. I'm here to try to explain stuff to you. I'm here to try to give you some more information so that you can enjoy the game more, right? Try to enhance your knowledge and enjoy the game more than you do if you otherwise did not have some insight as to what they are trying to do. Let's see here. Scott Young says, I know the coach said he still has faith in James Hudson, but if you were the coach, Paul, and watching Sunday's game, would you start Hudson or Marcus Bowe? I would start Andrew Thomas as soon as I got the green light from the traders. That's the real answer. Would I start Marcus Bowe? I think I would, after what Bowe did last week. I think I would probably start Bowe if Thomas could not go Sunday night. Now, having said that, I say that only because I saw Bowe play well last week, and I saw Hudson had some discipline problems, right? That's the best way to describe what happened with him. And I think, you know, to some degree, you have to take action as a head coach when something like that happens. So I think rewarding Bowe for his good game against Dallas, and at the same time keeping Hudson, you know, out of the starting lineup for a game. Again, this is if Thomas can't go. I think that hammers home the message that you're going to reward a young player for doing well, and you're going to make note of the veteran who did not necessarily apply himself in the best way. So, yes. However, I do think that Andrew Thomas is going to start, and I don't think that, you know, I would take him out. I would let him go in, play the whole game. As long as he's cleared by the trainers, Thomas is my guy. Now, Scott, I will add one other item here. You've heard me rant and rave about Steve Spagnuolo's blitz package this week. He is going to do everything he can to confuse the Giants' offensive line and to try to outsmart Russell Wilson. Now, Spags against Russell Wilson is a heck of a match. That's a chess match that could very easily go to a draw. But if Thomas can't go and you put Marcus Bowe out at left tackle, you're going to have to believe that he can handle some of the confusion that Spags is going to throw at him and the rest of the line. That's the caveat. If I were the coach and I went to my offensive coordinator and I went to my offensive line coach and they said to me, Spags is going to throw the kitchen sink at us, I think it's a bit overwhelming for the rookie. Then you know what? I wouldn't start the rookie. It's just that simple. If they don't believe as a staff he is ready for the full gamut of Spags' puzzle, you can't start him. You'd have to start Hudson. But I would need a collaboration from my offensive line coach and my offensive coordinator to discuss that with me and determine, where do you think Marcus Bowe is? And it's very possible that they would say he's not ready to face a Spags blitz package. That's probably even likely. So under those circumstances, I would then start Hudson if Thomas couldn't go. Scott Young says, Evan Neal, he doesn't even get dressed for games. He's on the sideline. Has he fallen out of favor with the organization? Scott, that's another one of those moves where the coach simply says, we're looking at matchups and we're dressing the guys who we think give us the best chance to win. So despite all the praise that they gave Evan Neal during the offseason and during training camp, and clearly he looked as though he was making a lot of progress, he's been scratched the first 2 games. It's just, again, obviously they just don't think at this moment that he's got enough to offer, and they've decided to scratch him. And they've kept guard Aaron Stinney active on the roster instead. Isaac Moore says, do you think Spags will ever get another chance for a head coaching job? Quite possibly, yes. I know he's getting older, and there seems to be a propensity in the NFL to go after all these hot young minds because they come from the video game generation, and there's a preference to go that way. I think it's still possible, but it's going to happen pretty soon because there's not a lot more time left, I don't think, for Spags. I think already in a lot of ways the league has decided that time has passed him by. I don't necessarily think that's right or that's fair. Remember, he actually did get an interview with the Jets last year, and they decided not to go there. That would have been rough for me, to be honest. Much like it was rough to see Parcells coaching the Jets and then also coaching the Cowboys. That stunk. That stunk real bad. Isaac Moore says, do you believe in the losing bug? It seems that sometimes you play well enough to win and wind up finding ways to lose. Well, I believe in the Parcells mantra from years ago. One of my favorite Parcells-isms: winning breeds winning and losing breeds ah. Well, think about this. The Giants have 5 players on their current roster who were on the team when they last beat the Dallas Cowboys in the season finale of the 2020 campaign. Okay? They've lost 9 in a row. 9 in a row to Dallas. And 16 out of 17. The 5 Giants who were on the team in their last win over the Cowboys: Casey Kreider, Graham Gano, Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence, and Darius Slayton. That's it. So, I don't know. In fact, I have to count it up now because the Giants have made a bunch of roster moves in the last couple of weeks. Isaac, I'm glad you brought this up because I will do it by the time I'm on the show again next week. I will count up the number of players on the Giants roster who have actually gone to the playoffs and how many have also played in a Super Bowl. Stinney and Nunes Roches were with Tampa Bay when they won the Super Bowl for Tom Brady. Those are the only 2 guys outside of Russell Wilson with Seattle who I believe have a Super Bowl ring. Don't quote me on that because I need to look it up. I need to go through it. But offhand, I think that's it. And I do think that you have to experience winning to help propel yourself in that direction. That's one of the reasons why Parcells always believed in winning preseason games, right? And the Giants were dominant this preseason. But to this point, it hasn't really helped them a whole lot. But the theory is that you remember what it feels like when you win. You like it, you enjoy it, you're happy, you're prideful, you feel really good about it, and that it will drive you to want to feel that way again. You enjoy winning so much that it motivates you to get more and more and more and more. You know, it's like eating that one potato chip in the bag. You can't just eat one. You eat a couple of them. You love them so much, before you know it, you devoured the whole bag. That's what winning is. Winning can be an addiction. You win, you enjoy the heck out of it, and then you try extra hard to keep tasting those victories. So yes, I do think there is something to that. Scott Young says, I would love to see them get Dante Miller off the practice squad running back and put him on the field and use him more as a running back on the edges. It was good in the preseason. You know how I feel about Dante Miller. I had him on my 53 this year. So you don't have to sell me on that. Although right now, as it stands, I don't know that he would have made a difference in either of these two games. Scott Young says, JMS better be ready to play on Sunday night because you know Spag's going to put him on his fanny, and I see him getting off the ground a lot during games. Quiet Riot says, I just want us to play well and not beat ourselves. That'd be great. Matt Seepersad comes back and says, Paulie, I listen to every episode of BBKL every year since it started, even the ones where you talk to the college guys in the offseason pre-draft. There you go. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that very much. A loyal listener. So you know where I'm coming from with a lot of this stuff. You know, I don't second guess, and I don't talk about things after they happen. If you know anything about me, Matt, you know you've been watching for years. I talk about stuff long before they happen. I try to rationalize it out. I give you the possibilities. I tell you the logic behind some thoughts or some options, and then we see how it plays out. It's the way it works. That's part of the fun of digesting and analyzing the strategy of this game. That's the fun part, is being able to talk about this stuff and understand how the different moving pieces could possibly go. Anybody can be a Monday morning quarterback and just tell you, oh, they stink because they didn't do this, or they stink because this went wrong and that went wrong. Okay, great. Right. We saw it. Everybody saw it. We all opened our eyes. We all saw it. The most fun part about being an NFL analyst or reporter, in all honesty, is what I do when I put myself in the head of the head coach. I put myself in the head of the offensive and defensive coordinators or the special teams coach, not usually special teams. That's a little bit too complex for me. But I often think of, okay, what's the head coach thinking? What are his options? What can he do with this? What can he do with that? If he does this, what does this mean? Put yourself in the role of the DC, the OC, or the head coach, and you talk about the options. And you talk about what's logical. You talk about what's realistic. That's really the best way to digest the National Football League. Unfortunately, most of what you get today from the stuff that's out there is clickbait. It's about injury reports because fantasy football people and gamblers need to know about injury reports. And they need stats. And they need analytic services to give them numbered grades, which are absolutely worthless. But because people don't know how to grade tape themselves, they take services, numbers, and grades. Whatever. It is what it is. Jay Snow says, our O-line can't get any push in the run game. Well, we've talked about this a number of times. Right? They have to. This is not an option. Okay? It's not an option. Tudo! Oh my goodness. He does it again. Thanks again, Tudo. Another super chat. Tudo hits us up again. He's very, very generous. He always is. Says, Paulie, we've started our season 4-0. Hey! And we're blessed to have two great coaches who are relentless, aggressive, and hungry to win every test any day against any club. Wow. I love it. Way to go, Tudo. Keep that undefeated streak going. 4-0. Nice. All right, let's see what we have here. Mark B. Paul, think Bowen will have Burns, Dex, Thibodeau, Carter on the field together more this game? Hope so. Well, here's the thing. The Giants have an injury issue at linebacker. Not only is Micah McFadden out, Darius Muasau, McFadden hurt his foot. Muasau's in concussion protocol. Last week they tried to put Board in there for a little bit. He got hurt. He's now on injured reserve. And so the Giants have a former Kansas City Chief who is now, believe it or not, going to wind up being the starting middle linebacker next to Bobby Okereke. They don't have a choice. It's Swayze Boseman. Was with the Kansas City Chiefs as an undrafted rookie free agent out of southern Mississippi last season. Was up and down on their practice squad. Joined the Bears during the offseason. Got cut. And the Giants just picked him up a week ago. Activated him. Played special teams the other day in Dallas. Got in for some snaps. He's a special teams guy primarily. He's about 6'1", 210 pounds or so, 215 pounds. He's an undersized, shorter, thinner linebacker. In fact, by today's standards, he's got the body of a safety. He did play linebacker at Southern Miss. Now, interestingly enough, prior to the 2024 season last year, at his pro day, he graded out on the relative athletic score system well over 9 points. Now, as you may or may not know, the RAS, or the relative athletic scoring system, is a chart that breaks down a player's height, his weight, his strength, his agility, his speed. They break down all the different combine drills and they assign them a score based on your performance in the drills. The maximum score is 10 when they interpret all the scores together and they put them into their formula. They come out with a 10. 10 means that guy is the ultimate athlete at his position. Believe it or not, Swayze Boseman was over 9 as a linebacker. He is an absolutely sensational athlete. The only two things that he scored subpar on the chart was for his height, listed at 6'1", and for his weight. I believe it's 210 or 215. I'm not sure right now. Those were his two negatives. All of the other testing that they do at Pro Day and at the Combine, he was incredibly high, to the point where he would have been amongst the top 4 linebackers in every testing category at the 2024 Combine. That's how highly he graded, strictly on his pure athleticism and physical capabilities. They only knocked him down for his weight and his height. But all of the other things in his toolbox were off the charts. Again, 10's the highest grade you can get, and he was 9+. I don't know. He was an undrafted free agent. The Chiefs had him. He got away, went to Chicago. I don't know what the deal was there. Did he not think he was going to make the Chiefs? Did the Bears decide to offer him a little bit more money? What happened? I don't know. The Bears got a quick look at him. They decided to let him go. The Giants scapped him up pretty quickly. And now he's going to play against his former Kansas City Chiefs teammates on Sunday. I figure he's going to be lined up next to Bobby Okereke, going against the Chiefs. And in all likelihood, he'll probably have a lot of coverage responsibilities against tight end Travis Kelce. Although I would think the Giants would also wind up using Dane Belton quite a bit in some man coverage on Kelce, and they'll probably do some bracket coverage on Travis Kelce. So, will Carter get more snaps in this game than he has in each of the first two games? I expect that to be the case, Mark B. I do. But as long as you were talking defense and you were talking linebackers, I felt it was important to give you guys the book on Swayze Boseman. We have, oh my goodness, look at this. Tudo did it again. Tudo with a third super chat. This guy is really going out of control today. Tudo, cannot even begin to tell you how much we appreciate not only your loyalty to the program, but your very kind generosity as always. And here is his quote, and I'm going to read this out aloud for those of you who are only listening to the audio version of our show. Tudo says, when blood, pain, and struggles all you know, fighting on the battleground becomes natural and quitting becomes impossible. You can't ever possibly beat a man who doesn't know how to quit. Signed, Tudo Azarit. He is, I believe, actually, you know what? Tudo, it's Tudo Azori, isn't it? I've been saying, I think, Azarit many times on our show because I see IT, which is behind your name, but it's in a different font as you chat with me. So I think it's Tudo Azori, and I'm guessing the IT just means Italian. Hit me up with a chat on that. Let me make sure we got your name right. I think the IT is just you're being proud of your heritage, and maybe it should be Tudo Azori. And if that's the case, then I apologize tremendously anytime that I have mispronounced, well, not mispronounced your name, but maybe read it wrong and read the IT as part of what your name is. That's why, we always know him as Tudo because he's the man. And, let's face it, right? When you go by one name like Pele or like Elvis or like Ali, means you're a legend. Tudo is a legend as far as this program is concerned. No question about it. Thank you, Tudo. Once again, always appreciate it. Let's see what we have here. Let's go back to our chats. We're going to continue for 10 more minutes to the bottom of the hour. We did not get nearly as many live viewers today on this program as we have had the first 2 weeks. And I think that's what happens when the club is 0-2. To be expected, I suppose. Scott Young says, Dexter Lawrence, I know he's coming off an injury from last season, but he doesn't seem like his juvenile self. Do you think he has some disappointment with this team? No, I think As Brian Burns said today, Dexter Lawrence is now starting to get into his groove. Once again, if you've listened to any of my programs in the last month, I have said Dexter Lawrence did not play in the preseason. It will probably take him 3 to 4 weeks to become Dexter Lawrence. He's ramping up. These are like preseason games for him right now. He didn't play in the preseason. He was better in week 2 than he was in week 1. He played okay. But Dexter Lawrence has a higher standard than okay. Dexter Lawrence's standard is up here, above the screen. He's all universe. Playing well is not good enough for Dexter Lawrence. He will get there, hopefully this week, and if not, then next week against the Chargers. I have said all along, I believed that the Charger game would be where I would really be able to grade Dexter Lawrence at 100%. Even with that, there are some medical folks who have said to me, coming off an elbow injury, guys sometimes are not 100% fully able to be right back where they were for 12 months. Dexter Lawrence got hurt in the middle of last season. Now, I don't think it's going to take him that long to be fully back to being Dexter Lawrence. It seems like he's already getting closer now. And for the Giants' sake, I hope so. And for his sake, I hope so. I hope he is dangerous Dexter against Kansas City. But if he's not, I'm not going to freak out, because I'm going to hope to see dangerous Dexter against the Chargers. Again, he hasn't played poorly. Let me make that clear. Dexter Lawrence has played well, but he's better than well. He's dominant Dexter. Oh, James O'Keefe says, Paul, spot on with Spags running games on the O-line. There's no doubt, James. It's no secret. It's no secret. James O'Keefe says, Ciao Tudo, you should give the Giants pointers on how to stop the tush push by the Eagles. Oh, you mean the illegal play. The play that should have been outlawed by the competition committee and the National Football League. But they still let it go on for absolutely no reason. The illegal play that should be taken out of the game. That's what needs to happen. Teams don't need to learn the play. They need to know that it's being removed from the game. All right. Tudo says to James, Giants got grit and talented rosters made, but they've got bad coaches. Well, I don't know. Let's see here. Scott Young says, we all know the Giants aren't facing the Dallas Cowboys defense this week. I sure hope Coach Brian Daboll really deals his homework for this game. Please get a W. Shot Caller says, this is off topic. Do you think the Packers have a championship caliber team? Yes, I do. Right now, it looks like the Packers and the Eagles, whatever order you want to put them in, I think probably Philadelphia, then Green Bay, are your two top contenders right now in the NFC after only 2 games. But it's only 2 games. Let's see if I can get through these quickly now. We only have 7 minutes to go. James O'Keefe says, since Hyatt doesn't play, I'd rather suit up Fedoni and use 4 tight ends. With Fedoni's height and arm length, maybe he could help in the red zone and blocking field goals. Well, I like Fedoni too. Interesting thought. Interesting thought. I understand there might be some merit to that. Thank you for the suggestion. Scott Young says, I would love to see Spag get another chance at head coach if it doesn't work out with ours and they break it up in the offseason. I'd love to see him as our coach. Bring him home. I always like being in the presence of Steve Spagnuolo. He's a wonderful, wonderful man, hell of a guy, and one awesome coach. Mark B says, like to see Bobby O step it up Sunday sideline to sideline. James O'Keefe says, agree, Scott Young. Spags is more seasoned now. Could be a successful head coach this time around. He has good contacts with coaches in the league, too. Could have a good staff. Isaac Moore says, I picked Green Bay versus Buffalo for the Super Bowl. Isaac Moore says we have to get better in the red zone. Scott Young says, Paul, working with the Giants many years, how tough is it to go in the locker room and ask a player after a loss? It's a tough job. Do you get a pit in your stomach? Well, when you've been around a franchise as long as I have, yes. Yes, you do feel for them when they lose. And you certainly feel for them when they lose in a really rough spot. You know, you're at practice all the time. You watch these guys. You see these guys. You talk to them every day in the locker room. And then you see the game and you see what happens. You wouldn't be human if you didn't have some sensibility and feel for the human condition as a competitor as to what they've gone through. Absolutely you do. And is it better for a reporter to go into a winning locker room? Well, sure it is. The atmosphere is better. People are more cooperative. People are having fun. People are anxious to talk to you. You would always rather go into a winning locker room if you're a reporter than to go into a losing locker room. When the good news is, if you have the respect of the players and the coaches, you can go up to any of them in a tough situation and ask legitimate factual questions. And they'll respect you. If they do respect you, they'll respect you enough to agree to the interview and answer the questions. Just like I talked to Drew Phillips, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Cam Scatterbo. I started one-on-one. I did one-on-one interviews with them. I was the one who first approached them in the locker room after the game the other day. I know those guys. They know me. They have respect. I have respect. When you have mutual respect with people, you can do things in a tough spot. That's the beauty of it. It's important to have mutual respect. At least I've always believed it. It's how I do my job and have done it for 43 years. Mike Seepersat says, good night. Just want to say Giants fan base is lucky to have a legend like Paul covering our team. Not many others have a luxury of a Paul Dottino. Go Giants. God bless America. Wow. Wow. Matt, I'm very humbled. Thank you. I don't even know what to say to that other than I'm very humbled, and I really, really appreciate your attention and your time to participate and to listen to the programs, whether it's this program or when I'm on Big Blue Kickoff Live, or for that matter, doing the MSG postgame show, or the radio pregame on WFAN, or the radio postgame on FAN. I'm in a lot of places, and the fact that you stick with me all these years, that says a lot. And I really do appreciate that very much. James O'Keefe mentions the RAS score for Fedoni, 934. Yeah, Fedoni had a great RAS score too, no doubt. Let's see. Matt says, Paul, it shows everyone else's full name, Tudo Azzurri. You see the IT because he has an Italian flag emoji next to his name. It is not formatting on your side. We see it, though, full name and all. There you go. Oh, here we go. Tudo says, Paulie, pronouncing Tuto Azzurri. There we go. Thank you, Tudo. Yeah, I guess my, for whatever reason, I'm not getting the graphic next to your name appropriately, and it looks like just the letters IT tacked on to the back part of your name. So we finally got it right. I finally got it right. Thank you. And I hope that you understand I have great respect for you, and in no way, shape, or form was I trying not to get it right. Sean Caffrey says, will they put Dex at nose tackle like Patterson said he should? Well, Dex does play an awful lot of nose. Even if it's a four-man front, he still winds up doing that. Arnold Stevenson, Freedom, says, good evening, Paul. Scatterbo is still doing great. Go Giants. Yep. Scott Young says, good night. One last thing, NFL. Why did you kill us with the schedule in 2025? Just a brutal schedule for a young team. Sean Caffrey says, how should the Giants fix the interior offensive line? Well, they did okay last week. One of the options would be Stinney. Another option would be Neal. But they seem to want to go with what they've got. And, that's their choice. Isaac Moore, we have so much talent in this team, and I have high hopes for the future. Scott Young, I just don't think you know how your team's going to be until after Thanksgiving. That's just the way I've always felt. Scott Young says, after a loss, it takes me a whole week to recuperate. I need to get a win this week badly. James O'Keefe, thank you, Paul, for your insight, enthusiasm, and experience, knowledge, living the life. Yeah, James, thank you again for taking your time to participate and to listen in and hopefully enjoy what it is that we do with these programs. It is a labor of love. I've done it for 43 years. It means the world to me. It's the only job I've ever wanted to have, and I'm glad that I can keep doing it. So thank you very much. Folks, that'll do it for this edition of the Big Blue Breakdown Live. The Giants take on the Kansas City Chiefs, 2-0-2 teams, 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday Night Football is the kickoff. And we will see if the New York Giants can actually come up with this upset. I will say this, folks. We'll be back with the 3 key matchups to watch for the Giants on our taped version of the Big Blue Breakdown. It's only a 20-minute show, so you can download that and listen to it while you're on the train or on the bus or in the car. It's only 20 minutes. Every Friday morning, we put it up, and it's the 3 key matchups that the Giants have to be concerned about going into the game. And I've already told you what the first one is, right? It's Steve Spagnuolo's Blitz package. That's for sure. There's no doubt about that, okay? There is no doubt about that. And we will have that again on Friday and then be back on Monday morning with the Big Blue Breakdown, game balls and gassers for the Giants' offense, defense, and special teams. And then, as always, we will return next Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, for another live edition of the Big Blue Breakdown. And we will take your chats, your phone calls, and your video calls as we discuss the state of the Giants and their upcoming opponent. This is all part of the New York Giants on SI YouTube channel and media network. Until next time, I'm Paul Dottino. Have a great night, everybody.